What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
We hope you're doing well. Settle in for the next hour or so while we talk about some new music. But before we get into that, we do have a little bit of music news I want to talk about. And that is When We Were Young, 2025, announced their lineup. Panic and Blink are the headliners. Panic will be performing A Fever You Can't Sweat Out in its entirety. Ryan Ross will not be performing with them. That was all the information I needed to know to not buy a ticket to this. What are your thoughts and feelings on this? We'll obviously dive into the festival more as we get closer to it, but any broad thoughts on the lineup we got?
I think the lineup is great. I think it's a great blend of old school and some new school stuff. I think Tsunami is on the lineup, which is great. Really good for them. We've got Let Live coming back, which is sick.
Yep.
Other than that, I mean, it's a When We Were Young lineup. On the Panic thing, I think it's kind of the same thing as the As I Lay Dying thing that's happening right now, man. The bands are a business. It's not Panic at the Disco. It's probably Panic at the Disco LLC, incorporated with the United States.
It's Brendan Urie and touring musicians.
Exactly. Brendan owns that.
Yes.
He owns the rights to it. Whether or not you and I think that A Fever You Can't Sweat Out shouldn't be performed without people like Ryan Ross or whoever, right? It doesn't really matter what we think because he's going to do it anyways. Doesn't mean we have to like it and we shouldn't.
No, and there, especially as it relates to like scene music, which this whole festival is based around, there's a very gray area with all of this because I saw A Skylit Drive released a new song recently. I started listening to that. I look at the lineup. It's like the original electronics keyboardist from A Skylit Drive, the second vocalist, and two other guys that I don't ever remember being associated with the band during their first 5 to 6 years of inception. So it's weird hearing like artists technically use the name of a band when, if you were there when that band started or were prominent, it feels nothing like that anymore. And that's because it's not really the same guys. It's just the same name. You and I have talked about this actually a lot over the years with albums we reviewed. I think Bring Me the Horizon used to be a popular one people threw around just because they changed genres so drastically. But I mean, it's just one of those things that sadly we're going to have to deal with. Like you said, the bands are a business. These names, once they have followers attached to them and maybe a popular name to stay in the band, it doesn't really matter who the other people are to some of the fans, which is just a sad reality.
Yeah, there was actually a lot of buzz about this year's Chiodos performance at When We Were Young, and it was basically Craig and the Drugs guys performing Chiodos songs.
Is that what it was?
Which... yeah, I think so. I think there was maybe one person that's not in Drugs that was on stage with them. I could be wrong about that, but it's one of those things that it's like, well, I mean, the videos I saw, they sounded fucking great. And if they can play the music, they can play the music. But is it really all's well that ends well era Chiodos? And maybe that's the inherent flaw with festivals like this that are nostalgia grabbing your $400 a fucking day,
But then there's the flip side, bands like Dance Gavin Dance, to where it's like, really only the guitarist, bassist, maybe the drummer, or like who they used to be, but like that band's always had a revolving door of vocalists, so it doesn't feel like they're unfairly carrying the name on it. Still feels authentic to what the band represented when they started. But yeah, that's interesting. I did not know Chiodos was not the Chiodos. I only saw videos from far away. I definitely did not see anybody that looked familiar outside of Craig in terms of Chiodos, though.
Right. And I mean, even new bands like Lorna Shore, like Tom Barber was their vocalist on a lot of their early stuff. And, Will Ramos coming in is great and he's definitely killing it. But like, I think the difference is when they're able to pay homage to the original members and kind of get their blessing rather than just buying into a company,
Yeah. Yeah. Last thing on this festival before we dive into the show. Is this crazy early to release a lineup? I think they released it within a week or two of the festival happening this year. That seems very fast.
Yeah, it is wild that they've already locked all these people in. I
Right,
think.
right. Like they just cut the used set short for coming on late, and now they have them booked for next year, as if like we love the used, which is like very weird to me, like one after
Right.
the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely early. I think that they're banking on getting a bunch of pre-sales, and I think that they did. I think that that style of, hey, you're mine in
Yeah,
October every year in perpetuity will continue as long as
yeah.
people continue using their wallets to vote for that kind of stuff. I don't know if you can tell by my tone. I'm not like gigantic on When We Were Young, only because of how corporate it feels. It doesn't. It feels way more like a nostalgia cash grab than it does really anything else at this point for me.
Only go to basement and backyard shows. They're the only non-corporate thing left in this world.
It's not the scene anymore,
It's
man.
really not. This is making me sad. Let's get into this week's episode, man. Before I get even that's so on brand for being seen, though. All right. So first up this week, we're gonna start off with some EDM music. We got a new one from Jai Wolf and Aluna. You guys might know her as Aluna George from that project. This song is called Water Sign. I think it's great. His new album is due out November 15th, right around the corner. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, this is a great track, man. Aluna sounds great on
Yeah.
this. I haven't heard Jai Wolf's name in a long time. We haven't covered him in a while.
We have not. I think we covered a single maybe a year or two ago and nothing since. So it's really good to
Wild.
hear him on the playlist again and to hear such a great song. That's kind of why I led off with it. I felt like it was proper for that.
Right.
New one from Subfocus and KDB, Push the Tempo. Thought this one was good. Have not heard KDB in a long time. Had to go back through. I was like, where do I know her from? She might be on that Magnetic Man project, but she's on that first Rusco full length. That's how long
Oh
KDB has
my
been doing
God.
this. I was like, I knew that name from somewhere. Great vocals, great song, as always, from Subfocus. What did you think of this one, man?
Yes, sir. This is indeed a Sub Focus track. Sub Focus is like the Foo Fighters of drum and bass to me. I can't help but like the music. It's a bit basic, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I've always made the mistake of confusing Subfocus and Subtronics, and the second a very loud, obnoxious bass sound does not start off the song, I'm like, it's Subfocus, more melodic. Yeah, this is good though, man. Speaking of good, new Knock 2 song featuring Sofia Grappari. It's called Hold My Hand. This is my favorite Knock 2 song to date. This dude is developing into a really good producer, man. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, man, I love Noctu's solo productions. I think that he shines without ISO XO. But this is no different, obviously. The one time to the beat, what is it? The one time to the beat
Yeah,
sample really kind of took me out of it, though.
fair.
This was a really cool track until that sample came in, and I was just like, oh man, it took me right out.
That's fair, man. All right, what did you think of this new one from Champion Fortet, Skrillex, and Nisha called Talk to Me?
Fortet and Skrillex make such wonderfully weird music, John. I am super here for it.
I am as well. Who is Champion? I have no idea who this is.
Is that not the clothing brand?
It is not the clothing brand, believe it or not. Otherwise, the playlist artwork would be the just giant C. It would have to be TM. Yeah, I've
Right.
never heard of that artist before either, with Nisha on the vocals, but I thought it was a good song, man. Very on brand for Fortet and Skrillex, that's for sure.
Right.
New one from Disclosure, Arachnids is the name of this one. Thought it was good. Will go very hard during live sets. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, I actually think that this is an undisputable banger, John.
Okay.
Disclosure is on some like darker house shit with this, and I love that. I would love to have a whole album of shit like this from Disclosure.
Yeah, I think they even posted after it came out. They're like, "You're not going to be singing along to this one live, but trust us, trust us." Uh,
But to be headbanging to
yes,
house.
please, God, we need more of that. New one from Alex Perez, Bloomsbury's the name of this one. Thought it was great. Did you know we missed an album he dropped last month?
It's on my to
Of
cover
course it is.
in 2024
Of
playlist.
course it is.
I did know that we missed it, but we have had a lot of music this year,
He's
John. I
already
don't know if you can
following
tell.
it up. It's like, this is fucking great. We got to catch
You
up,
love
man.
that.
This is great. What do you think about it?
What is he, King Gizzard? This guy is quickly becoming one of my favorite drum and bass producers.
Same.
He has such a handle on that like minimal sounding percussion while not using it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he really creates a vibe, and he just, it's this was very good. I loved
He
this.
most definitely does, man. All right, new one from Sasha and Jody Barr. It's called Facts On. It's the extended mix. You already know Sasha doesn't miss, as we always say on the podcast. It's another banger. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, man, just some progressive house music at its best. Normal for Sasha, but incredible nonetheless.
Classic. All right, we got the Mochok remix of Lost in Space by Foster the People. I thought this one was really fun. A lot of low end to it, which I'm always a fan of. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, I don't throw all of the remix stuff that comes across my releases every week, but I call it Mochak, whatever you want to call
Sure.
it. Did a great job with this one though. You and I both thought the Foster the People's new album was a lot dancier than we anticipated it was going to be,
Mm-hmm.
but I really didn't expect a fucking tech house remix of it. Good for both parties here. I think Mochak is getting like a lot of buzz. His Yuma set at Coachella, I think this year or last year, was honestly incredible, full of energy, and I think it's kind of catapulted him to next level heights. Maybe he was already on that trajectory without Coachella, but I'm glad that
Interesting.
Foster the People is booking people like this to do remixes for him
Yeah.
because that is fucking neat.
Same, man. All right, another banger of a remix. It's the Chris Lake remix of Percolator by Green Velvet. This goes so fucking hard, man. I really liked this one. What about you?
My notes say this goes so fucking hard,
Yeah,
man.
same, dude. Really, really glad this one got a release. I've heard it in the live sets, and I didn't know it
Right.
wasn't out, but now I'm glad it is.
Yep.
New one from Shy Girl and Sweetie. This is another absolute banger, dude. The run Shy Girl has been on this year is legendary. We had that Club Shy EP, we got the remix EP, the extended version, few new songs, Encore, Immaculate. All have just been so fun, so clubby, so dancey. I'm a big fan, man. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, Shy Girl's had quite the year, man. Isn't she on tour with Charlie and Troy as
That
well?
tour just wrapped up. It wrapped the night after I saw them in Seattle. So they've been off for about a
Oh,
week
wow.
now. But yeah, she was the opener every night and came out for like the 365 remix during Charlie's set as well. So I
Great.
think she netted a lot of new fans on this one.
Yeah, I'm not a gigantic fan of Saweetie like we've talked about a couple of times on the podcast, but I think they both killed all of this. So I was a big fan of this one.
Yup. Yup. I actually, I'm usually in that camp, but I think Saweetie's verse on this is actually really fun and fits the song
It's
very
great.
well. All right, new one from The Weeknd and Anita, Sao Paulo. This is the best of the rollout so far, in my opinion, but that's really not saying much. What did you think about it?
I actually really like this one, John. This is undoubtedly the best song from the singles that we've received. So
Yes.
I really liked this one, actually. I kept coming back to it.
I liked it as well. I tried not to overdo it because I still want to go into this album with some level of mystery, but this is a step in the right direction. I will say that.
Yep.
New one from Lady Gaga, Disease is the name of it. It's not really doing it for me, man. Feels a little derivative, maybe even of herself, if that's possible. What did you think about it?
I liked it. I think that she sounds great. It's dark and dancey, just how I like my Lady Gaga.
Man, it sounds like it, but it don't feel like it. I'll tell you that.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Two new songs from Amine. We got Passenger Princess with Smino and Adam. Passenger Princess is the first official new Amine song outside of the CHROMAKOPIA project since 2021. And that's pretty much all I wanted from him from in terms of a new track, man. It's one of my songs of the week easily. Adam is like a lot more down tempo and has some singing that we don't often hear from him. These feel like Lucy's to me. I don't think that they'll be a part of whatever album he's working on, but if they're an indication of where he's at now, I'm very excited to hear what's next. What did you think about these?
I love an artist that doesn't pigeonhole themselves and can experiment, even like on a Lucy single released with two tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I the give me way more of Passenger Princess vibes though. Like
Yes, yeah.
Amine and Smino need to do an entire album together. I just like imagined them with like Static Selective beats or something, you know, like that sounds awesome. Adam is great. I honestly think that you would be super stoked on Adam because
Oh,
it's
I'm
got
a
that kind of like
fan. Yeah.
that Anderson
Just
Paak vibe
different.
to it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I'm a fan of both of these. The Sminoverse had me wondering though, do people dip Takis in guacamole? Like I didn't know this was a thing. Have you ever done this?
I have not. I have smoked weed out of a Taki.
Of course you have. God damn. Thank you. I needed that. Jesus Christ.
You know, man, I was hurting. We didn't have anything.
Struggle bus, man. We've all ridden it. It's all good. No judgment on the Brandon's Face podcast. New one from Maxo Cream, Big Homie. Jesus, only he would name a song. This is just a classic Maxo. I would hate to be one of his ops. Like he's on the top 5 list of people I would not want to be on the ops of. What did you think about this one?
Right. Like, can you imagine, like, even this, like, slightly pissing Maxo off at, like, the grocery store? Like, Maxo walks into the HEB and it's like,
Oh my
you,
god.
like, you look at him wrong and then all of a sudden you listen to his next track and he's dissing you. He's calling your mama ho. You know what I mean? Like,
Maxo at the
this is
grocery
great,
store
bro.
sounds like its own like pilot of a TV show, man. I'm a big fan. His new album is dropping this week. Very excited for that. Dude,
Nice.
new one from Saba and No ID, How to Impress God. I heard this and I was like, I feel like Brandon's gonna really fuck with this track. Do you?
Oh yeah, this is one of my songs of the week here, John. Did these two announce an album or
No,
something?
they
Am I
just
tripping?
keep releasing singles, man. And
God
I'm like,
fucking
please,
damn it.
that's exactly my note. Can these two make an album already? Because like, who is better with Saba than No ID right now?
They're just killing it, bro. Those dark piano notes, the real low end on the kick drums, just all, and he just floats all over this fucking thing. This is amazing.
Really fucking good, man. Glad you dug it. I don't know if you've seen the news about this new album. Snoop Dogg is releasing an album this December entirely produced by Dr. Dre. I think there's going to be a few Dre features on it as well. Of course there will be. This is the first single off it. It's featuring Janae Aiko. It's called Gorgeous. I really like the beat. That's kind of about it, though. What about you? Did you enjoy this one?
I don't know, man. I think Snoop has a couple of bars.
Sure.
I had seen the news. I'm very excited for that. I think Dr. Dre producing a Snoop Dogg record is amazing. I'm cautiously optimistic though. I did like this track. The production is crisp and fantastic, so there's no denying that. But we'll see. Snoop Dogg hasn't really had a hit for me since I don't know 1994. So
Dr. Dre just needs to release Detox, make everything right with the world. Finally,
Right.
That's where we went wrong. We just never got Detox. All right, we got a new one from Summer Walker, Heart of a Woman. This is great, man. I typically like a little more bounce in my R&B, but I was a big fan of this one. Her voice is great as always. Very genuine songwriting that you can kind of feel in her voice. First we've heard of her in a while. What did you think about it? I know she's a little slow for your taste typically.
released in 2024, sounds like late 90s, and her vocal performance is insane, enough so that I can't even say
Good.
I mind how slow it is, because this was very good.
Good. That was the goal with this one. New one from Latin Mafia, Siento que merezco más. This is great, man. I've liked this group for a few years. They always put out great music. I figured I would finally throw a release of theirs on the playlist. I think this is the first time I've added them. What did you think of it? This guy's voice is insane.
Yeah, man. I saw Latin Mafia and I was like, this is going to be a Latin pop dance banger. It's not what we got. This is actually really good. I was pleasantly surprised because Latin Mafia in all caps just made me think, oh, we're going to the club.
Yeah,
But we did not.
I would struggle to even call it like alt pop or like I don't know if it might be just R&B. Like the guy's voice is so unique. I'm a huge fan of it. If you go, they've really only released a few songs. They typically release 1 or 2 a year, but if you go back through the last few years, let me see what the song is that I want to recommend. Julieta, that one is phenomenal, man.
Thick.
Moving on, we got a new one from Sade called Young Lion. So, obviously, it's not every day or every year that you get a new Sade song, so I'm not even going to try and be critical of it. I'm just kind of thankful we got it. There's been rumors Sade has been in the studio working on a new album for the past couple of years. I don't know if anything will ever come of that, but one thing is clear. When she's passionate about something, she uses her voice. This song is for a compilation titled Transa. It's dedicated to her son Isaac, who is a trans man. It's produced by Aaron Taylor Dean and co-written by Ben Travers. That's notable because this is released under the name Sade Adu, her full name, instead of Sade, which is technically the name of her project with the full band. Part of me still selfishly hopes there's more actual Sade music on the way that isn't a part of a soundtrack or compilation, because that's really all she's resurfaced for in the past 14 years or so. But I am grateful to hear her voice sing again. What did you think about this one, man?
I thought this was fucking gorgeous, John.
Yeah. It's weird when you hear like real music again, kind of like the amount of pop and stuff we listen to.
Right.
Yeah, man. She's a one of one legend. Again, just
for sure.
Really hope we get some actual new Sade music because it's fucking great.
I was confused at the Sade do because I was like, wait, this it's got to be her, and I even went back and like listened to other tracks, and I was like, it's totally fucking her.
It's her.
I did zero research because I rely on you to do a lot of my research for me on stuff like this. So thank you.
That's the way a good friendship works. It's give and take, man.
Exactly.
All right, new one from Loli Young and Lil Yachty called Charlie. Loli Young having a fucking huge week being on the Tyler the Creator album. We'll get into that soon. I like things about this one. It is not my favorite Loli Young song. I'll circle back to it in a few weeks with fresh ears, but I don't know how I feel about it quite yet. What about you?
I loved it. I don't typically say that about anything featuring Lil Yachty, but I really love this one, man. The guitar licks are fantastic. Has like this bluesy kind of jazzy vibe to it. Lola Young has just been fucking crushing it, man.
Huge year for her. New one from LCD Sound System, X-Ray Eyes is the name of it. How you feeling about it?
It's very LCD Sound System, John. Do, 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 do. And then that just forever. It's it's very LCD Sound System. I think it's going to fit into whatever project he ends up releasing, but I'm it's an LCD Sound System track. I think people really jack this band off way more than is required because he makes great music, but a lot of it is very extremely overly simplistic to the point that it's grating. And the first time I listened to a new song from LCD Sound System, that's exactly how I feel. Song grew on me throughout the week as I knew it was going to, because most of his music does, but that's how I feel. What'd you think?
It's so funny you say that. I thought the song is fine, but like the way you just described LCD Sound System in general is the way you've described bands I've liked before, and it's devastated me. But this time I entirely agree with you. This is the exact same experience I've kind of had with their music, give or take the random song I like here or there. But it's always been one of those ones that just doesn't always work for me.
Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, new one from The Palms called Ghost. Give me your thoughts on it.
I love this fucking band, man. They hit a button for me in my brain, and it's just I don't know what it is. This band fucking speaks to me. I love this song. Really enjoy this one.
Button labeled MGMT, because that is exactly what I'm hearing when I listen to this, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. It just reminds me of like early 2010s, MGMT.
Yeah, like Celebration era.
Yes, exactly. Am I allowed to say that? Can you say
100%?
Can you say something sounth like that? Yeah. This is a good song.
Well, they've never sounded like that again, so absolutely you can.
Good point. If they're not going to use it, somebody's gotta. Is this the first time we've talked about this group on here?
I think we covered an EP last year. I found them when I was just deep diving the internet for unknown indie bands way back when in like 2016, 2015. And yeah, I found this band. They had released an album called Mulholland Drive. They're from Los Angeles. They've got this real dream pop, indie rock, MGMT style sound to them. But there's something that just every time this dude's voice comes on, something just flips in my brain, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing for the next however long this project is. So, buckle up, Brandon.
Fair. All right, new one from King Gizzard. This one's called Phantom Island, and to go along with it, we got the announcement of a new tour that they'll be doing with a full orchestra. Should be awesome. I have already enjoyed this track a lot more than anything on Flight B741. What about you?
My God, John, can this band do everything?
They can.
Can this band do everything?
If they can't, they'll try.
My God, man, this is great. This is great.
It is. It's very, very good. All right, you added this cover of Crying Lightning, Arctic Monkeys song. The cover's by Safari Room. I thought it was serviceable. I don't know if I really liked it much beyond that. What did you think about this one?
I've been kind of like dabbling into this band, and I figured I would throw on an Arctic Monkeys cover because it's the era of Arctic Monkeys that you like, John.
Yes. Before they just got so slow and so sad.
I still maintain that their loungy music is still very good, but
I like Tranquility Base. I like that one. It's just when they doubled down on it with the car in such a boring way, for my taste, it just lost me. Especially if you just go back to any of the first stuff. It doesn't even have to be AM, but just the riff heavy stuff. I just miss the riffs, man. And
it's fair, bro. It's fair.
None of this is a criticism on Safari Room. Just bring the fucking riffs back. This is like Opeth with the death growls. Like, what do we have to do to get Arctic Monkeys to play a fucking electric guitar again? Jesus Christ. All right. We got a new one from Circle Waves. American Dream is the name of it. I really liked their last album, or I remember liking it a decent amount. I didn't go back to my review for it. I thought this song was okay. I really liked the guitars in the front half of this one. What did you think about it?
We actually have a new album from them coming out in January of 2025. Okay. This is, look, man, you know I like this band. Mm-hmm. Early 2010s indie rock vibe, and you know that I love that style, bro.
You certainly do. Yeah, we'll see how that album is. Their last one was the one with, like, the horse on the cover, right?
I believe so. Yes, I tried looking it up on streaming.
Never Going Under.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. That is not the band I was thinking of. I don't know who I was thinking.
I think you might have been thinking of Cloud Nothings.
No, that wasn't it either. It'll come back to me. Anyway, so we got a new one from Koyo. This one is called I Might Not Get Through All of This. What did you think about it, man?
Okay, thank you for throwing me the ball here. I actually love the addition of the synth. I so badly want them to keep incorporating the synthy level of their sound, but I want them to do it into their heavier stuff. The softer side of Koyo is great, but like give me the heavy, but like with synth. It works well, but it doesn't work as well as I know that it could, and I hope that if they're listening that they do that, which they're not. But if they were.
Yeah. By the way, the band I was thinking of was We Are Scientists. I really liked that last We Are Scientists album.
Yep.
The last Circle Waves one was good though too. In terms of my thoughts on Koyo, the exact same, man. This one was okay, but yeah, I think that there is a happy medium. I agree with you there. New one from Millington, Radio. Those horns hit my ears like Mjolnir hitting Thor's hand, dude. Fucking love it. Millington always delivers in terms of the ska shit, man. What did you think about it?
Ska punk this late in the year? We have a massive lack of new ska punk coming out, or at least we're not aware of it. Horns are expensive. That's real. Buy used. If you're going to do a ska punk band, just make sure you clean it. Yeah. This was so much fun, bro. Every time it came on this week, I was just fucking jamming, bro. You know, volume got turned up, windows went down. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, man. Really, really good song. New one from the Casper Fight Scene, Cadillac Death Trap. I don't know if I loved this one quite as much as the last one, but equally as enjoyable. I hope they have a new album on the way, too. What do you think about it?
I haven't seen that, but I haven't looked hard enough. So I'm not even sure which one I like better, their music or their band name. But they've tapped into pretty great song and into a pretty great sound here. I think I'll agree with you. Their last single was a little better than this one, but this is still pretty good, bro.
I agree. I agree. Speaking of pretty damn good, this new one from Knuckle Puck, On All Cylinders. This might be my favorite of their recent tracks, and they have put out some heat recently, man. This song is a banger. What did you think about it?
Absolutely agree. Full banger.
I'm guessing we're going from one banger into another because it's a new In Angles song, man. This one's called Trench. Their new album is one of my most anticipated right now, for sure. What about you?
This whole album is going to be a fucking banger, bro. This track fucking rules. That breakdown is wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went back to their last album earlier today. I had to hear a single thread, you know. You just gotta
of
throw
course,
that one on
of
every
course.
once in a while. It's time, man. New Driveway song, Ghosts of a Smile. Another one of my songs of the week. I was worried we would not be getting New Driveway's music this year, but as the clock struck 12 a.m. on Halloween, we were gifted with this absolute gem. They have a new EP dropping later this month as well. Cannot wait to hear that, man. Always a fan of these guys. What did you think about this new one from them?
A little late, Driveways. Just kidding. They can release whenever they want.
Also put
but
a
I just
breakdown
love their
there
music
for
so
us.
much. I was just gonna say the breakdown is so sick. So all is forgiven.
Their music's always great. It doesn't always have a breakdown. It's really nice when it does. I appreciated that.
Yeah, they got pretty heavy towards the back end of this song, man. I was like, whoa, okay, what's up,
They
Driveways?
definitely did. We did not have a lot of metal singles or music to talk about this week. I think I added most of the metal, oddly enough, and I had to throw this new one from Brains Outward and Peeling Flesh on here, Death Wish and Agony. Please, you got me into Peeling Flesh with that latest release of theirs. This one only further cemented me as a fan. Hearing Brains Outward for the first time just blew my fucking mind as well. Pun intended, I suppose. But, like, please, man, give me your thoughts on these.
What an absolutely insane collaboration, man. Both of these bands really complement each other here. This had me fucking going. The first song I put it on, or I came on as I was driving. Windows were down because it's really nice out here in the desert, and it was really loud because I think I had just been listening to, I don't know, Driveways. And then this comes on, and the guy next to me looked at me all fucking weird, and I was just grooving, man. We were at a stoplight. So shout out to the guy on Jefferson and 48th for definitely giving me a weird look, but I don't really care because this thing bangs.
Oh my god, I can see it in my head, actually. He just couldn't handle the Death Wish, man. It happens. It's okay.
Right, exactly.
We got a few EPs to talk about this week, man. First up is a new one from Spore. Skeletonize is the name of this one. What are your thoughts on it?
Mr. Gooch has done it again. Every track here is fucking sick. He has historically been one of a favorite of mine, and the Spore EP has quickly become some of the best work in his discography for me. I hope he ends up getting massively popular with this new scourge of drum and bass because this dude absolutely fucking deserves it. The first time I had heard Scoped Out, that first 2 minutes were kind of grating on me a little bit, and then bro, he throws this like weird sub bass in there that just completely broke my brain in the second half of the song. And I'm like, my God, this thing fucking rules. Whole thing is great. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I agree. I'm glad all the singles that we'd been talking about were leading to a new EP. I thought the Cave EP back in 2022 was great. This really only expands on how excellent that was. Obsession is probably my personal favorite out of this bunch, but like you said, they're all bangers, man. All right, band I've been excited to talk to you about, Choke Cherry. This is their new EP, Messy Star. I stumbled onto their track Afterglow the other week and just hit follow. I saw they dropped an EP, so I threw it on. This is their first EP. I think they fucking crushed it, man. Afterglow is still probably my favorite of the bunch, but this is a no skips for me. No Other Place, Messy Star are really, really good. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on this band going forward. What did you think about it?
I super agree, man. I really like this one. I actually had to check. This came on and I was like, whoa, Soccer Mommy got really heavy. And then I was like, wait a second. That's not them. um, it's like down tuned, faster soccer mommy. It was great. I loved the entire EP. Good shit.
Good, man. I am glad. Uh, EP from a band called Entheos that I threw on here, and End to Everything. This is another band I found recently and just kind of hit follow on. You can't hear a song like an End to Everything or Life in Slow Motion and not hit follow, you know? So I was hoping you would enjoy this EP as well. What did you think about it, man?
This is a great EP, John. It is. I looked up their Spotify. It says they're progressive death metal. I think this is more deathcore, but I actually think that that fits them a little better.
Mm-mm.
And it is just, man, the fantastic guitar work on this is so good. The vocals kind of pierced my soul, like that first pig squeal
Scream
on
is
All for
so
Nothing.
good.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, bro. I was just stank facing. Like, I was like, oh my, this is filthy.
Good. That is all I wanted you to do. All right, we got a split, man. Another one. Swiss Army Wife and Kerosene Heights. This is it's called Sisters Not Twins. I love the amount of split EPs we've gotten recently. These two bands go very well together. All four of these tracks are really good. What did you end up thinking about these?
I love this, John. Another split, like you said. Swiss Army Wife has their signature sound, which is so good. Kerosene Heights also crushes these two tracks. This may be one of my favorite, quote unquote, real emo releases of the year.
I think Swiss Army Man are just always in terms of my favorite in terms of real emo and whatever wave we're on by now, wave 20 or whatever the fuck it is. They crush
It's
it.
got like it's got like that perfect twinge of hardcore to it that's just like, oh yeah, that's right there.
Yep. It's really fucking good, man. I still have to catch a show of theirs. They play out here all the time.
Go fucking see
I
them,
know,
bro.
I know, I
Like
know.
you said, basements and bars, brother.
I'm a Scorpio. I'm weird. I like my bed. I like my blankets. I like the place that I
Invite them
spend
to
all my
play
money to pay rent to live in. I like to use that and feel good.
Invite them to play to you while you're in your bed. They might even agree.
I'm gonna mull that over. All right, man. We got an EP from Moosman. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's called Brick. I like this one, man. Pretty minimal, but it's really solid, full of all sorts of good beeps and boops like you'd want on an EP like this. Also, bonus points for putting bridges or architecture in your album art if you're an EDM artist. Even more bonus points if it's in black and white. So shout out Moosman. What did you think of this?
Uh, Loved this. This is out on Mutual Rhythm, which we've talked about a number of times on the podcast because I can't quite get enough of this. It's minimalistic, but it's got this like industrial tinge to it that just the driving. It feels like it doesn't matter where you're listening to it, but it feels like you're encased in concrete or something. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so fucking cool.
Oh, it's really fucking cool, man. Another EP that is very cool. This one from Linear Phase, Atomic Variations. This is just 20 minutes of club bangers, Brandon. And I
know
love
it.
it for that. It is really fucking good. So thank you for throwing this on. What did you think about it?
You know, John, the little flourishes on this one really get to me. This is out on Dark Forest, which is a label that we have never talked about on the podcast. The way things just kind of like lead into one another and then just like crash into each other to like fully create a track is a production style that I'm particularly fond of due to like the progression it creates. This is really rad.
Same, man. Are you ready to talk about the albums this week?
We've got a couple.
We've got a few, so let's get into it, man. Starting with CHROMAKOPIA by Tyler, the Creator. This album has not been out for very long. I'm not going to pretend like I have a full grasp on my thoughts and feelings as it relates to an album this dense, but my initial reaction to it is very positive, and it's probably as positive as anything he's put out from Flower Boy until now. His 3-album run leading to this already cemented him as one of the best out today. This album is aiming to turn that best now into more of a best all time, which he's probably already in the conversation for as well, depending on who you are. But dropping albums with the quality and expansiveness of CHROMAKOPIA is only going to make that argument about him being one of the best easier to make. On top of the music he's putting out, he is easily one of the best visual artists today. And he's created yet another iconic look to go along with this era. That fucking hairstyle. I wonder if he's going to get tired of that faster than he got tired of the Igor suit, but we will see. Like I said at the start, though, man, I don't really know my full thoughts and feelings on all the layers and themes and what they represent, as is tradition with an album of his. It's going to take me a while. I'm sure the Dissect podcast is already working on picking apart every bar on this album, but it's easy to feel the message he's putting out, even if you don't fully understand the depth of it quite yet. He did a little bit of trolling in the lead up to this release, saying that it would have no features. I'm glad that turned out to be a lie, because the features really help make this album what it is. Schoolboy Q, Doechii, Gambino, Sexy Red, Glorilla, Daniel Caesar, Lil Wayne all do their part on here. Also, like we said earlier, what the fuck, Lola Young has a feature on a Tyler, the Creator album?
Right.
It's insane. And that's not even just like he sent her the song. There's a picture of them in the studio together. So just insane, man. As a fan of hers, that's insane. Noid was an interesting lead single. He could have easily gone with a more immediate banger like Ratata, but like I like that he wants to put out some of the more challenging cuts on the album first. I'm gonna leave it there for now. I think it's in that like high 8, maybe low 9 range. Ratata and Thought I Was Dead are my standouts. It is a really great year for rap, man. What did you think of this?
You know, the rap this year has been lower in quantity but higher in quality.
Agree.
I will give you that. You know what I've noticed about Tyler albums, John? I've noticed that it takes me a few months to like fully grasp what he's going for. Mm-hmm. What grabs me on my first impressions on this one, though, are the tracks with features. That seems to be no different on this one, because the features always kind of grab me on a Tyler album first, right? He's got a kind of a mixture of Igor and Call Me If You Get Lost thing going on with this record, and while that's kind of exactly what I wanted for him, I'm not fully grasping everything on this yet. This is kind of the reason why singles do drop, to build like anticipation and familiarity with the sound prior to hearing it. I love, like you said, that he dropped Noid, because we all still had no fucking idea what to expect. Yeah. I love the intro to this one, and as that transitions into Ratata, you can tell that Tyler is really in his element here. Then the transition into Noid is great, and the track is as well. Darling I marks a little change of pace, and Hey Jane has some like pretty heavy lyrical content paired with some beautiful instrumentation. That seems to be the status quo for this record, alternating tempo / hardness and pairing everything with just incredible production. A track with Sexy Red, Glorilla, and Lil Wayne all on it is not something I expected from anyone, let alone Tyler, the Creator, this year, but it is something that I think is executed extremely well. The Schoolboy track is great. Lola Young, flowers to her. I'm becoming a pretty big Lola stan at this point, bro. Yep. Doechii obviously kills her verse on Balloon as well. This is a great album, man. What I struggle with in this record is the lyrical concept and cohesiveness. He usually has some sort of congruity, and there is obviously quite a bit here. I just haven't connected all the pieces. Like you said, Dissect is probably sitting there doing all of my work for me here, which is great. But I can't. I really struggled to give this a score, man. Right now, it's sitting between a 7 and an 8. Once I connect all the dots, it'll probably, like you, be between an 8 and a 9. I love that Tyler has taken rap music and made it like this. It's made it so that I'm like, okay, I really need to like sit down and digest this at like a later time after listening to it. Like it's not something I can just consume in the background. You can't throw this on in the background, you know? This is something that you have to consume, and you have to do it actively, and I love that about this. So my standout's going to be Noid. I love Noid, man, but there's so many good tracks on this. I mean, Balloon is fucking great. They're all good. So
you're not just going to throw Judge Judy on and like do some housework.
Judge Judy's fucking great, bro.
No, but to your point, it is not a background album. Like some of his might have.
Most definitely not.
To be. All right, let's move on. We got a new one from Megan Thee Stallion. It's Act 2. On its own, I think this album is just okay, but as a deluxe edition, I think it's better than average. I'm usually lucky if I like 1 or 2 songs on a deluxe project, but I like a majority of this, even if some of it feels like a small step below what I guess would now be considered Act 1. It starts off incredibly strong with Bigger in Texas, which is probably one of the best songs she's put out this year. It's followed by the equally as strong Bourbon and Number One Rule. The album starts to lose me around Rocksteady. Thought the verses on that one were pretty good, but that Petey Pablo beat just did not work for it. To be clear, I love the Petey Pablo beat, but I feel like they needed to add something new to it to kind of make it their own. The Mamushi remix with Twice is disappointing. Not every K-pop group needs to rap. The song loses all of its charm without Yuki on the hook, too. I love that she brought Spirit Box back for an original track after their remix of her song Cobra last year. I could see Meg doing a full album of this and crushing it. The last few tracks feel like album cuts with the exception of the closer with RM, which is still a banger. Overall, though, light 7 for me. My standout is Bigger in Texas. What did you think of this one?
John, like her last record, this one is great, man. She has a great flow, and this complements the Act 1 pretty well. I feel like whoever did the production on this and her Act 1 did the drums extremely well, dude. The 808s that are like the main stage of this album are all done with like such a finesse that I was like kind of zoning out completely at times and like not even bothering to listen to her vocals, but mainly just listening to the beats. It's hard to call it deluxe, but even though it is, I can see why a lot of these didn't make the initial record. All of that being said, she is clearly in her element, deserves all the flowers she's going to get for this one and her last one. It's between a 6 and a 7 for me. I love that Spirit Box track. So TYG is going to be my standout.
That song is so good. Shout out Courtney LaPlante for just like holding her own on a track with Meg. That's fucking awesome.
Real.
New one from Freddie Gibbs. You know I love saying that. This is his new album, You Only Die Once. A Halloween album and spiritual successor to his 2017 project, You Only Live Twice. Was not what I was expecting between the last time you and I talked and now, but here we are, dude. Like his last album, Soul Sold Separately, he ties everything together with these skits and vocal bits. It's very, very Freddie Gibbs. It kind of gives it like a mixtape feel, even though the quality of rapping and production is definitely album quality. Some of my immediate standouts are Wolverine, Brick Fees, It's Your Anniversary, and Walk It Off. But new tracks every day become my favorites. I was really vibing with Cosmo Freestyle this morning. On the Set is a great way to wrap the album up. It's a beautiful tribute to some of the artists that aren't with us anymore. And might not close the album on the most exciting note, but probably the most important one. This is in that same like Tyler range. At first I didn't think I liked it as much as the Tyler one, but I've actually listened to this a lot more than CHROMAKOPIA so far. So I'm going to say it's the same exact score between an 8 and a 9. My standout, it's tough. I'm going to say Walk It Off overall. Him doing that just like infectious melodic rap that he does, the way he does it on that song is what I love about him, man. What did you think of this album?
A surprise Freddie Gibbs album with no features in 2024 is just proving that 2024 has just been bonkers for music as a whole. This album artwork is so good, John.
That's why I pre-ordered
as is tradition for him over the last 4 albums or so, you can tell he like really puts his heart into, like creating an aesthetic for an album.
Yeah.
If you had just listened to the first track, you'd think that this is just another cocaine bar filled Gibbs album. It isn't, though. Like SSS, he's very clearly trying to dig a little deeper into himself. That ends up with a project that is pretty fairly cohesive, that touches on him facing the devil within and removing the demons, all tied together, like you said, with the intermissions, what interludes,
skits with the devil.
Yeah, pretty deep shit for a coke rapper, which, let's be real, he very clearly still is. But I love it when rappers like him end up branching out a little bit. He definitely follows the same formula and the same production style throughout this, and you could probably interchange a lot of the tracks on this with each other, and it wouldn't really matter because they all sound samey. But it's still very good. It's Freddie Gibbs, and finding something to criticize about this was not easy. You know what I mean? So
No.
it's about a 7 for me. I think Brick Fees is going to be my favorite of the
Yep.
bunch. It's a really good one, man. It's a Freddie album, and I will definitely be throwing these on a playlist for when I'm in a Freddie Gibbs mood.
Brick Fuse is so good, man. I can't tell you how many times I went 6 speed this week. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
the art's incredible. Maybe one of top three for him so far. I literally pre-ordered the CD just so I could have this on a T-shirt. So
Beautiful.
yeah, man. Shout out Freddie Gibbs. All right,
Beautiful.
we got a new album from The Cure, Songs of a Lost World. Please give me your thoughts on it.
Alrighty, Johnny, you ready?
Yes.
The first album in 18 years from The Cure is here. Robert Smith sounds just as good here as he has for the past 40 years or so, and that's fucking wild, man. Like he never skipped a beat. I'll say this, I've never been like the largest Cure fan in the world. Not that like I don't love their music, because I do, just more so in the fact that I've been a casual fan. I have listened to Disintegration and Pornography through a number of times, and I've thoroughly enjoyed everything I've heard from them on both of those albums and off of those albums with their hits and all that fun stuff. But to my naive ears, I'm getting mad Disintegration vibes from this one. The sound design on this is all so beautiful. The Cure has always kind of taken their time and really gone above and beyond to create moments within their music that translate into like building and progressing songs. They're not afraid to take their time with any of these, and that kind of restraint in the streaming age is something that's, I think, direly missing in popular music. The intro track alone has almost 3.5 minutes before we even hear Robert's voice on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that building and progression really lets us all kind of get to know the thing that really stood out on this album quite a bit. And that is the bass. It's tuned low, it's mixed up front, and I love this. You know that I love rock music with a good bass tone and good bass lines, but it feels like this was tuned like directly for my ears. Doesn't matter like on which speakers, whether it's headphones or earbuds, I listen to this on. The bass stands out in a massive way on this record. The synth work on this album is also spectacular, but like string elements, even on tracks like Nothing Is Forever and End Song, really exemplify what it means to kind of create a listening experience. There are moments on tracks like A Fragile Thing, Drone, No Drone, and even War Song where they like really turn up the riffage and like fucking rock out. This is done in such a way that it feels heavy without actually being heavy. So I mentioned earlier that I wasn't even sure if they're considered popular anymore, but at 19.5 million monthly listeners on Spotify, they're pretty popular, bro. I figured that was like probably just like more so their 80s hits that like get hit on playlists or whatever like that. But this album has an average of over 2 million listens per song, which is honestly incredible. So good for The Cure. The Cure really knocked it out of the park with this one, man. I was pleasantly surprised at just how much I actually liked this album with the amount of time I had with it. It's a 9 for me, bro. My standout is going to be Drone, No Drone. What'd you think about this one?
I thought it was okay. I don't.
I knew it.
Just yeah, like I don't have a nostalgia for them necessarily. I agree, Robert Smith is a great singer, and I agree that his voice has hardly aged. But yeah, man, I wasn't a giant fan of the singles. I kind of knew how I'd feel about the album, and it's very similar. It's I wouldn't say of the projects I've even heard of theirs that I'd be able to differentiate it in terms of better or worse. They still sound like The Cure to me, you know? So I think it's a success in that regard. We also just had a lot of exciting music on the playlist this week, and I think this was the album that suffered for me most as a result. The album, though, is like in the 6 to 7 range for me personally. I still thought it was very serviceable. They are a legendary band with still very good songwriting ability, and that much is very clear whether you're a fan or not. I'll circle back to it when I have some more time and patience, but this was not that week for me, man. I agree, though. Same standout. I'm going to say 7 overall, though.
That's fair, man. That's fair.
Very interested on your thoughts on this new Underworld one, Strawberry Hotel. This is a weird one.
It is, man. So I like this album because I like Underworld. And it's like a really weird at parts and really straightforward in other parts, but I don't really think they're ever gonna have another hit quite like Born Slippy. But I also think it's a rare case of nobody really expecting that, right?
Yeah.
They've had quite the career for almost 40 fucking years at this point, and for them to continue to put out records that clearly resonate with them this long in their career is something to admire. It's worth noting that in the vinyl release of this record, they actually say that Coachella Weekend 2 is better. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what they said, right? Um, Now, getting to the music, this is overall, I like it, but over half of it is a disappointment for me. Let me explain. I love Underworld, and their live performances, I think, will forever be incredible. But this album kind of feels like they wanted to go overboard on the quirkiness and like subdue a lot of the music on most of this, which ended up being to their detriment. Black Poppies starts us off into like a subdued intro track and then leads into Denver Luna, which is one of the better tracks on this record, man. It builds naturally and from the intro track, and the monotonous and droning kind of nonsensical lyrics really sent me into a little bit of a loop, which is cool, man. But I do like this track. Techno Shinkansen is honestly a gorgeous track, and the color red really fucking hits as well, even if they did spell color wrong. I do love the filter on the vocals from Carl on this one. But Sweet Land Experience is like really pretty, but it lacks a level of heaviness, and they just basically at this point have lost me in the record, man. They've lost this level of heaviness and like experimentation that I love from Underworld. Tracks like Lewis and Pomona has both the heaviness and the experimentation that I love from them, but I feel like the vocals aren't mixed properly. It feels like every time they did something right, they did something else wrong to bother me with it. That song will probably bang live though. Burst of Laughter kind of has this fantastic bass line and like a great lead synth that is really cool. But why does it feel so empty? It feels empty, especially for an Underworld track. King of Harlem is the same. Maybe it's the mixing on the album. They're like stuttering on tracks. Like Oh Thorn is like a good example of that quirkiness kind of coming to bite them in the behind. I love it when electronic artists kind of let things breathe, but maybe this one's breathing too deeply for me to connect with. There's lots of little moments that I genuinely love, but not a lot of cohesiveness in the tracks, and the mountains and valleys all kind of rubbed me the wrong way on this one, man. It was really fucking weird. I went into it thinking this is going to be fucking great and came out thinking, what was that? This is a 5 for me, and the color red is probably my standout. What'd you think about this
Dude,
one?
we're on the same page. I don't love Black Poppies as an intro. Denver Luna is good. The color red's really good. Sweetland's experience is kind of forgettable. The back half of Louis and Pomona goes pretty hard. Hilo Sky, pretty strong album cut. But the album just loses me after that. It's not bad as much as it's just kind of meh for me. Still traces of them at their best on this album, but less than I was hoping for. Light 5 for me too. Denver Luna, easily my standout, no question.
Good track.
All right, we got the Amyl and The Sniffers album, Cartoon Darkness. You Should Not Be Doing That and Chewing Gum were great singles. Whole album shreds pretty much as hard as those do. There's times that their like whole brand of piss and tits bar rock starts to wear on me, but for the most part, I think this is a very solid rock album that really encapsulates everything about how grimy that scene can be with their writing and music. It's one of those albums you can like taste the beer or smell the cigarette smoke from just listening to. It feels made to be performed in bars and clubs, although I suspect they're going to have some really fun festival gigs sooner rather than later with this type of energy. Thought album cuts like a Motorbike Song are the type of horny bar rock we do not get enough of anymore. Strong 6 to a light 7 for me on this one, man. My standout is either You Should Not Be Doing That or Motorbike Song. What did you think of this one?
Striking, fun, and apologetic. Those are the three words I would use to describe this band as a whole. Amyl and her Sniffers have done it again. She has such like an endearing quality to her and the music here. In just like 33 minutes, this band continues to prove why they're rising to the top of the ridiculously talented pool of musicians in Australia. The reason is that they don't give any fucks. Flashing the world on the album cover, doing that music video with the dicks. I don't know if you saw that, but there's a bunch of dicks in one of their music
Sure.
videos. And telling everyone that they're pigs kind of all prove this. Musically, though, I wish we got more of the hardcore tinged style that we have gotten on albums like Comfort to Me and they're self titled, but I can't hate. I can't hate it all because they do really kill this Western style of bar punk rock that they're doing here, man. I really like this band and I hope that they do more harder stuff, but this one's it's a low 7 for me. My standout is Pigs. Pigs is fucking great. You're all fucking pigs. I'm a fucking pig. We're all pigs.
Hard agree. All right, we got this new album from Soccer Mommy, Evergreen. It's another solid Soccer Mommy album. Got her signature brand of dreamy indie folk that she's so good at. It's a little slower overall than I was hoping for based on the more alt-rock leaning singles like Driver and Abigail. But I still like it, man. We didn't talk about Abigail as a single since it came out the week of the album's release, but she wrote that song about the video game Stardew Valley. If you or any of your listeners are not familiar with that, it's like a cozy farming sim that has relationship mechanics in it, among many other things. She wrote that song about her love for one of the NPCs you can have a relationship with in the game named Abigail. And the studio that made the game let her use the animation style for the music video. It's pretty awesome. I suggest anybody check it out who's a fan of that. Beyond that, though, man, I think it's a good album. Another solid 7 for her. My standout is Driver, which I told you when that song came out, this is going to be my standout, and it sure as hell is. What'd you think about this album, man?
You did say it, and if anything, you're not a
I'm
liar,
not a
John.
fucking
So,
liar.
Soccer Mommy has been a mainstay on my turntable since Sometimes Forever release, and obviously I've since gone back through and listened to her discography over, and there really isn't an album that I dislike.
Hmm.
That is the same for this album. I don't dislike it. It lacks a lot of energy, though, John. Even some of the more like energetic tracks, like Some Sunny Day, actually like lull me a little bit. She's always had this like lackadaisical lo-fi style, but this kind of takes that softer side to the next level. There's a handful of tracks on this, like obviously Driver, Some Sunny Day, Salt in the Wound, and M that I'll add to my gardening playlist, but I don't think I'll be returning to this one as much as I do her previous records. It just didn't hit the same for me, man. It's a 5. My standout is it's either Driver or Salt in the Wound. Salt in the Wound's a really good song, bro.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on all of that, though, man. Like, yeah, kind of lower energy overall than I was hoping for, but still the same good writing she's known for. Like you said, she hasn't put out a bad album yet. And this is not going to be her first. So we'll see what she does next. But this is another, I think, fitting entry into her discography, if nothing else.
For sure.
All right, man, let's talk about Fit for an Autopsy. This is their new album, The Nothing That Is. I'm a big fan of this one, man. The lyrics and music are great. Opens with my favorite track on the album, Hostage, before diving into the equally savage Spoils of the Horde. And on Red Horizon is outstanding. The last breakdown on it is one of my favorite moments on this album. That title track fucking rips. The back half of this album does not really let up either. The closer, though, is just really special. The Silver Sun is the name of that one. Easily one of the heaviest songs on an already very heavy album. It's one I was always happy to come back to this week. This one's a strong 7 for me, man. My standouts are Hostage and Red Horizon. What about you? What did you think about this one?
Good shit, man. I'm glad you liked it so much. Man, deathcore has been hit or miss for me for a couple of years now. The genre as a whole has kind of like repeated itself even when it's innovating. Maybe it's just my older ears, or maybe it's actually happening. Regardless of all of that, I went into this the way I do with most albums, open-minded. Glad I did. This hit a number of spots for me. The clean vocals on this are actually caught me off guard. Not because they like were there and exist, but because I've always thought that clean vocals like never really fit into like a heavy album like this. But man, they fit pretty snugly on this
Yeah.
album, and even if it softens their sound a little bit, They still really fit so well. The melodic elements are fantastic, and I think that Fit for an Autopsy has benefited from not keeping themselves in a box. From the start of this album, we're hit with pretty great melodies on Hostage, which require from the guitarist the ability to incorporate them into heavy and chuggy music like this, which really can't be terribly easy. Yet it sounds great. I sent you the video for Red Horizon
Hmm.
when I watched it because I love a band that sticks to their guns and puts their tenets above whatever fans they are to inevitably piss off with whatever stand they end up making. The groovy riffs on this thing kept me coming back to it, and I think they did this whole thing pretty well, man. Even if they softened up their sound a little bit from their previous releases, this whole thing's a banger. It's a solid 7 for me. Red Horizons is my standout, although
I knew
Hostage
it
is
would
great
be.
as well.
Yeah. I knew Red Horizon was going to be your standout. All right, man, let's talk about this Two Shell album. It's their self-titled. Before this album, I had only heard their song Talk to Me with FKA Twigs earlier this year. Still a fan of that one. Unfortunately, that song is not on this album, but a lot of the same stuff that made that song fun is more than present on plenty of these tracks. It's glitchy, bouncy garage music with these little techno flourishes throughout. Feels very rooted in like old warehouse rave music of the early 2000s. My standouts on this one are Come to Terms and Give Me It, while my favorite moment on the album is just the entire back half of Rock Solid. You just got to hear that one if you haven't. Overall,
Right.
though, man, this album was kind of disappointing for me. Like, somewhere between a 5 and a 6 in terms of my overall enjoyment of it. But I think there's a lot of promise here. What about you? What did you think about it?
That's interesting. All right, so this is the debut album from Two Shell. After their live stream at Coachella this year, I've been just itching for this album. I'm glad that we didn't get another Fred Again clone, and I'm kind of glad that Two Shell decided to incorporate some weird shit without it becoming like the main focus,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Like tracks like Rock Solid really show off what kind of production is in full force here. It's purposeful electronic music with such strong personality. A lot of artists are content with writing an album that conforms to the goings on of the trendy EDM sphere, but what we actually got here is a quartet adjacent record that I think will likely stand pretty well, man. I think this album's gonna age pretty well as as electronic music plunges itself in deeper into the 2020s. I really liked this one, man. I think that they really hit a couple of notes that a lot of EDM artists aren't doing right now, and I'm gonna give it an 8. It's Be Gentle with Me or Rock Solid are gonna be my standouts. I thought you were gonna love this one. You always throw me a couple of
I
curveballs,
try
John.
to. It. I feel like the Wave Dash album is kind of like what I'm looking for when I'm listening to this, which is not really like fair to Two Shell as a group. They're their own thing. I'm very aware and respectful of that, and I do like their music. But like in terms of just the mood of EDM I've been in this year, they bring a
That's fair.
little of that, but they're not bringing a lot of that. That's kind of the mood I've been in, I guess.
No, that's super fair. And I mean, as music reviewers or whatever you want to call us, we are going to have biases, and that needs to come out in whatever we're reviewing because this album probably even last year might not have hit me the same way it did, when I was writing my review of this. So
Oh, yes, yes. For anybody not aware, we have plenty of biases. We're just transparent about them. We will happily tell you what
right.
our biases are and what you should absolutely not listen to our opinion on if you're a fan of. So always keep an ear out for that. But yes, that is the music biz. All right, man. Let's get into these 3 metal albums to cap the week off. They're this. I've been listening to these 3 albums so much these past few days. Starting it off with this Better Lovers one, Highly Irresponsible. We have been hyping this one up for a while, and that might have put some like slightly unrealistic expectations on it for me at times. But once I sat down with this one and just really listened to it, I don't think you can call it anything other than like a total success of a debut in terms of what they were going for. From day one, they've had their own take on metalcore, and they've continued to expand that definition with each new release. We're big fans of bands that color outside the lines, and Better Lovers is one of those bands that never saw the lines to begin with. Getting into the music, though, man, this album opens with a bang. Lies Between the Lines is exactly what I was hoping for when I hit play on this, and it delivered. The next track is a minute and a half of just thrash goodness. From there, we go into a few of the singles that we've already talked about. Deliver Us From Life slows things down a little bit, has a little more of that southern metal rock feel to it. Drowning in a Burning World is another short but heavy jam that ends with one of my favorite breakdowns on the album. Everything Was Put Here for Me and Superman Died Paralyzed kind of run together for me, but I think they're both great, and that breakdown at the end of Superman fucking rules. This album closes with Love Is an Act of Rebellion, which takes things back to kind of that thrash feel before fading into dissonance like it should. Great debut, strong 7, light 8. My standout, man, there's a lot of great music on here, but I'm going to go Lies Between the Lines. I'm always an intros guy, and that is a great intro. What did you think about this one?
You're such an intro guy, bro.
Intro guy, man. I'm so predictable.
All right, so I'm going to be honest here, John. I was pretty fucking stoked for their debut EP. I think it was last year. But the recent singles for this one had me thinking that they were like already softening their sound a little bit, which was actually kind of disappointing to me. To my surprise, they did not do that so much that it ended up they didn't do it. At least they didn't soften their sound enough so that it ended up like majorly changing the way I feel about it, at least. Buckley sounds great on this, and everyone is firing on all cylinders. They wear their influences on their sleeves, and I think with the work that they've done in the past, bleeding into this and mixing with their Avenged Sevenfold, new metalcore influence, it's all coming together in a way that should absolutely continue to fucking kill. I am sure that their live shows must be madness, and the hardcore elements are really putting the finishing touch on everything. You know how Salt Bae sprinkles his cute little flaky salts onto steaks.
Onto this podcast. Do not bring up
what
Salt
I'm telling you, what I'm telling you, John, is that the little hardcore sprinkles really tie the room together on this, man. It's a 7 for me. White Horse Covered in Blood or Drowning in a Burning World. Both of those are fucking bangers.
You know, I thought I was safe from Salt Bae when talking on this podcast. Turns out you're never
not
safe from Salt Bae.
You're never safe.
I agree, those are bangers. I kind of rode the same roller coaster with you. I think you and I were kind of projecting optimism in the singles leading up to this one, but you and I were both kind of like, this isn't as heavy as that first EP, which this is very early for us to be saying that.
Right.
But the album lived up, so I'm glad for that. Dude, let's talk about this Heriot album. Devoured by the Mouth of Hell. This is another band that I just found recently. Could not wait to show you. Found their song Siege Lord. That one got my attention. The album opener, Foul Void, has been in my heavy rotation since as well. I think this album is just so well put together. Ranks among my favorite metal projects of the year. I'm not sure if that's like top 5 or top 10. Somewhere in the top 10 for sure, man. I really, really like this group. This is a strong 8 for me, but I am dying to know your thoughts on it.
All right. So we're a little late covering this one. I think this came out in
yes.
late September. So I looked at this album and I was like, how did I not know about this fucking band? And so I was like, who released it? Century Media.
Yes, I did
like, I'm following Century Media. How did I not know about this? Funny story. In middle of this year, Century Media started a Bandcamp page, and I immediately followed it. Didn't really realize that I was going to get a notification for every single one of their back catalog albums that they added to Bandcamp. So I quickly unfollowed them. I think early August. I would have known about this. I would have known. Oh, bro, it was like 25 notifications a fucking day.
Ooh.
It was, well, they've got 20 or 30 years under their belt, right?
Sure.
All right. So Heriot is a band that I'm very glad that you showed me, John. I'm glad you threw it on so I can become acquainted with this because this whole thing fucking rips. Harm Sequence is probably one of the heaviest tracks I've heard this year. And there have been some insanely heavy tracks this year. We got some odd, like, electronic elements here with, like, even the intro of Siege the Lord and the entirety of the track Lashed, which ends up breaking up the ferocity a little bit, but doesn't lessen any of it. This is a great album, John. This is great. And another add to the growing pile of just incredible metal music this year. It's definitely between a 7 and an 8 for me. My standout is Harm Sequence. I just want to note, though, this album really made me reflect a little bit, John. We have been so blessed with metal this year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's probably one of the better metal years, and we're going to get into this probably next month, but my God, man, I just keep throwing shit on the pile, and like none of it keeps getting any worse, you know? Like, it's all so good.
Dude, there's been just so much goddamn good metal. Speaking of talking about it next month, the way I found so many of these bands is I was like, I've listened to so much, but what have we missed this year? So I started going through, found a few that we'd never talked about to my knowledge, and I was like, one of my goals going forward is to introduce Brandon to metal he hasn't heard before. Granted, I'm just discovering these bands for myself the first time, so it's you and I together, but I'm trying to find some ways to even surprise you. I'm glad this one, at least, was under your radar
you did it.
enough to be a surprise.
You did it.
Good, man. Good. Let's cap this week off by talking about this Paganizer album, Flesh Requiem. Dear God, man, you know how much I love some feral metal, so thank you for throwing this on. I don't know what track we reviewed as a single, but this whole album just works so well together. Super fucking heavy, unrelenting in its brutality. Exactly what you want from an album called Flesh Requiem with an ancient tomb on the cover by a band called Paganizer. It just fucking rocks, man. This one, easy 7, maybe higher on another day. My standout is either Life of Decay or Necromonolithic, but throw a dart at this one, man. What'd you think about it?
This is out on Transcending Obscurity, which, if anybody doesn't know, their entire digital catalog on Bandcamp is pay what you want. So I have purchased probably about 15 albums, this digital, obviously, but I've purchased them, so I have them, and I have them in great quality. So, John, back when I was discovering death metal for the first time, I was pretty entranced by Sweden's scene. It had like a ton of really interesting bands, and they all seemed to have this level of musicality that was above their contemporaries around the world. Paganizer comes from Sweden, and they exemplify why I love Swedish death metal so much. It's the old school in that early, like, entombed kind of way. It's got these, like, dirty tremolo picking riffs, the blast beats, but not too many. The drummer actually does, like, a really great job of blending the tempo changes, like, right into the breakdown on Viking Supremacy. It's like blast beats right into a groove and then fills right into an intermittent blast beat for the rest of the song. Honestly, super fucking impressive. I also especially love that they don't overly downtune their guitars on this one. They really let the riffs speak for themselves. There's like a lot of melodies here too, with like these old school metal, death metal vocals. It just took me back. This is somehow like a really nostalgic album for me while being completely brand new. Not to say that any of this is derivative, but they definitely took from the old school masters and brought it into 2024. Tracks like World Scythe with the war gunshot sample and the incredible melodies is just exactly what I'm talking about. Just absolute class, chaos, and ferocity on this one, man. From Paganizer. They've come a long way from their Scandinavian War Machine album, but they deserve to get more attention than they do because this whole album is fucking great, bro. It's between a 7 and an 8 for me. My standout is probably the pyroclastic excursions for that bass tone and the level of thrash they threw in there.
Bonus points for saying the full song title, too. Yeah, man, we had so much good metal on the playlist this week. That was a lot of fun. All right, man.
Yes,
Next
sir.
week, we will be covering some new releases from Absol, ASAP Ferg, Maxo Cream, State Champs, XG. A few EPs are dropping as well. Make sure you're following along with our weekly rotating playlist. You can find the link to that in the show notes. That way you know what we'll be covering on each week's episode. You can also find us on Instagram and Reddit. Just search Brandon's Face Pod. We will see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.